On 27 May 2008, Steve Gladieux led a group of 8 novice caevers into the Sloan Valley Cave System, planning a through trip from the post office entrance to the garbage pit entrance. The night before, they stayed up late, chatting and planning. But the next morning, 2 of the novices decided they were too tired to continue and opted to stay on the surface, leaving Steve with a group of 7. At 11 a.m., the group entered the 25-foot chimney of the post office entrance, expecting to emerge at the garbage pit by 6 p.m. They explored various side passages, including a visit to the Fountain of Youth and the big room's north overlook. However, fatigue began to set in, and with the return trip being 2.5 hours of solid caving, Steve decided to push forward. They discovered that the bolts at the big room's south overlook had been cut, but Steve managed to lower each person down about 8 feet to a ledge, rappelling down himself with a munter hitch. He then pulled the rope, needing it for the upcoming swim at the first lake room. Time was running short, and they pressed on towards the garbage pit, which was about 40 minutes away. As they approached the next section, Steve noticed something alarming. The water level was 35 feet higher than the last time he had been in the cave. They encountered thigh-deep water in the big room and crossed the hogback, still in good spirits, but their optimism was short-lived. The bypass at Echo Junction was completely submerged. Only 2 of the group had fully waterproof headlamps, and without hesitation, Darshan, one of the novices, volunteered to swim the 175-foot passage and provide light for the others. He grabbed one of the waterproof lights and began swimming, towing a 70-foot rope attached to a dry bag buoy at the other end. But as Darshan neared the end of the swim, fatigue overtook him. His arms felt like lead, and each breath became more desperate. Suddenly he cried out, "Help!" before disappearing beneath the dark, frigid water. Steve, a trained lifeguard, didn't hesitate. He jumped into the water, his light immediately going out as the icy water engulfed him. Fighting the cold and the darkness, he swam towards Darshan. When he reached him, Darshan was barely conscious, his head bobbing intermittently above the water as he gasped for air. Panic had set in, and Darshan, in his fear of drowning, grabbed onto Steve, dragging them both under. With every ounce of strength, Steve managed to push Darshan towards a steep, muddy bank on the side of the passage. Darshan was too weak to stand and could barely speak. His body was shutting down. He was seriously hypothermic, his pupils dilated, his words slurred, and his limbs unresponsive. He drifted in and out of consciousness, unable to even shiver. Steve knew time was running out. He shook Darshan awake, forcing him to eat and stay alert. He called out to the others to keep Darshan awake, then swam into the next lake, pushing towards the entrance. Steve reached the surface and alerted the 2 novices who had stayed behind. They had no flotation devices in camp, so Steve ran to a nearby landowner's house to call for a cave rescue. The first rescuer arrived within 10 minutes, but Steve was adamant about going back in. There was a heated argument. Steve wanted to re-enter the cave to help Darshan, but the rescuers needed someone to show them the way. Ultimately, Steve couldn't be kept away. He grabbed 200 feet of thin rope, food, water, warm dry clothes, and a blanket, all stuffed into trash bags, and headed back into the cave. 40 minutes later, Steve was back at Darshan's side. He had Darshan strip out of his wet clothes and dried him off, giving him food and water. Slowly, Darshan began to improve, the warmth and sustenance reviving him. It took the rescue squad 5 hours to get him across the lake, carefully maneuvering through the dark, treacherous waters. The entire rescue operation lasted 11 hours, but thanks to Steve's quick thinking and determination, Darshan was saved from the brink of death. On a cold Saturday, February 13, 1965, 3 friends set out on an adventure that would end in unimaginable tragedy. This is the harrowing tale of James Mitchell, a 23-year-old scientist from Winthrop, whose passion for spelunking led to a chilling and unforgettable disaster. This disaster then leads to another incident generations later. This entire tragic caving story has a timeline of more than 4 long decades. Yes, you heard that right. Arriving in Dolgeville with his friends, Heidi Miller and Charles Bennett, their destination was the infamous Schroeder's Pants Cave. Their first stop was the home of George Lyon, the landowner above the cave. Unfortunately, George wasn't home to warn them about the ice-cold meltwater that now surged through the cave's passages. With prior permission for their expedition, the trio felt confident as they approached the cave entrance, eager to explore its depths. Undeterred by George's absence, they entered the cave, navigating through tight spots like the lemon squeeze, the gun barrel, and the Z-turn. They finally reached a spacious chamber with a vertical shaft plunging 80 feet into the depths below. It was here that their adventure took a disastrous turn. James, ever the adventurer, decided to explore deeper, lowering himself into the shaft. Secured by a safety line and harness, he descended, only to be met by a torrent of freezing water. As he ventured deeper, the waterfall grew stronger, and suddenly, his line got stuck, trapping his arm. He was helpless, hanging above the abyss, with ice-cold water pouring over him at temperature -20 Fahrenheit. Despite his predicament, James remained calm, reassuring his friends that he would be fine. He tried to release the line and climb to safety, but the line was too cold and wet to grip, and his equipment couldn't get free. Edie and Charles, just 10 feet above James, tried desperately to pull him up. For 45 grueling minutes, they struggled against the icy torrent, but their efforts proved futile. Realizing the severity of the situation, Charles climbed out to seek help at a nearby farm, but no rescue teams were nearby. The closest help, a national cave rescue team, had to fly in from Washington, D.C. Within hours, this terrible story became huge news across the country, and the nation held its breath, hoping for a miracle. By the time the rescue team arrived, it was too late. James Mitchell had succumbed to hypothermia. For 6 long days, the team tried to recover his body, but the cave walls began to collapse. Due to that, the passages became even narrower and boulder blocks became a hurdle as well. The thought of the cave completely collapsing, trapping the rescue teams inside as well, was a looming question. Ultimately, they had to seal the cave, turning it into a tomb for the young scientist. Many were disappointed and outrageous, however the teams did what they thought was the best. However, the story doesn't end there. James's untimely death was the first time people truly understood the risk of hypothermia in caving. Paula Gergic, secretary of the British Caving Association, explained that it made clear how stopping movement during an expedition could lead to deadly cold exposure. At the time of his death, it was common to explore caves in jeans and cotton overalls. Today, cavers usually wear a fleece undersuit with a waterproof PVC coating, a testament to the lessons learned from James's tragedy. Years went by. James's story started to fade away. However, more than 4 decades later in 2006, George Lyon's grandson Christian, who grew up listening to the tragic passing of James, made a mission for himself. Something about the incident kept him uneasy. People deserting a person's dead body, who was once as excited for adventures as Christian himself. This was something he wasn't willing to accept, and just because of that, he resolved to recover James's remains. With the blessing of James's family and a highly qualified team, Christian embarked on a mission to give closure to this tragic story that bugged him for years. News quickly spread that the body would be recovered from the abandoned cave, and Christian Lyon filmed the search process, turning it into a documentary. He and his team retraced James's steps from over 4 decades ago. The passages were as treacherous and collapsed as the stories had warned. Christian descended into the same vertical shaft. He came face to face to that icy, relentless waterfall. Confronting this reality after hearing tales of its chilling presence and the agony it inflicted only fueled Christian's resolve to honor his promise. Hours stretched into an eternity as they tirelessly combed through narrow, winding passages. Finally, at a depth of 75 feet, James's bones lay scattered at the bottom of the foot shaft. Christian was at a mix of emotions. He had fulfilled his mission to bring closure to this heart-wrenching saga. After 4 long decades, James's remains were brought back for a proper burial, providing some solace to his family and friends. The Schroeder's Pants Cave was reopened, giving cavers the chance to explore again. James Mitchell's story ensured that other cave explorers were better prepared, and his legacy continues to impact the caving community. Sergei Koziev, a dedicated Russian mountaineer residing in Sochi, embarked on a solitary expedition to Verykibyona Cave in Abkhazia, Georgia, in November 2020. This cave, renowned for its staggering depth of approximately 7,200 feet, held a magnetic allure for Sergei, driven by his passion for exploration and the challenge it presented. Welcome to On the Verge, where I explain tragic stories and discuss what went wrong. Despite limited experience in cave diving, Sergei's athletic prowess and love for outdoor adventures compelled him to tackle Verykibyona Cave, known for its daunting labyrinthine passages. bone-chilling temperatures averaging 39 to 44 degrees Fahrenheit, and relentless humidity levels. Verykibyona Cave's history dates back to its discovery in 1968, when daring explorers first ventured into its mysterious depths. Over the decades, successive expeditions pushed further into the cave's dark recesses, navigating narrow tunnels, steep descents, and unpredictable obstacles. Yet, despite the triumphs of exploration, the cave's remote location and extreme conditions have also claimed lives. Departing quietly from his family on a crisp November morning, Sergei journeyed to Abkhazia, parking near Verykibyona Cave's entrance. Equipped with essential gear and a determined spirit, he began his descent into the abyss, negotiating steep vertical shafts and submerged passages with caution and anticipation. Each step deeper into the cave presented new challenges: icy pools, tight squeezes, and slick rocks that tested Sergei's physical endurance and mental fortitude. Arriving at the first established camp at 2,000 feet, Sergei paused to rest and regroup. The camp, strategically stocked with emergency supplies, offered a vital respite before he ventured deeper into more demanding terrain. As he progressed, navigating through the cave's intricate network of tunnels and chambers, Sergei confronted the stark realities of extreme caving: solitude, darkness, and the constant battle against cold and dampness. However, as Sergei descended deeper into Verykibyona Cave, unforeseen challenges emerged. The water level began to rise rapidly, overwhelming his inadequate equipment ill-suited for such harsh conditions. To make matters worse, Sergei had not anticipated a severe storm on the surface, which triggered a torrential rainstorm. The deluge swiftly flooded the cave, surging through its passages with alarming speed. Upon noticing the water flooding the cave floor beneath him, Sergei realized the urgency of the situation. Instinctively, he knew he had to ascend quickly. Yet, crucial climbing gear, such as stirrups essential for support and mounting, was missing. Forced to rely solely on his own strength, Sergei struggled against the elements. His worn harness dug painfully into his skin, and the frayed rope he clung to was dangerously thin, offering little security on the slick, moss-covered rock. Exhaustion soon overtook him. Every muscle screamed in protest with each futile attempt to climb upward. Sergei's numb, raw hands struggled to maintain a grip on the slippery surface. Hypothermia clouded his mind, blurring his thoughts and vision. He slipped repeatedly, his determination to turn back thwarted by sheer physical and mental fatigue. Eventually, Sergei conceded defeat. Collapsing at the base of the rope, he curled into a fetal position, seeking warmth that eluded him. Above, the rope dangled uselessly, a grim reminder of his desperate struggle. Lost in the darkness, time seemed to blur as Sergei drifted in and out of consciousness. Each awakening brought sharper pain, exacerbated by hunger, thirst, and the relentless cold that gripped his body. Unable to muster the strength to shiver, Sergei succumbed to the advanced stages of hypothermia. Months passed without any word from Sergei, prompting deep concern from his family and the mountaineering community. In August 2021, during a routine expedition, seasoned spelunkers stumbled upon a crucial clue: a rope left near the cave's entrance. With renewed determination, they embarked on a painstaking search through the labyrinthine passages, leading to a grim discovery: Sergei's remains, clad in rugged outdoor gear, deep within the heart of Verykibyona Cave. The recovery operation posed an immense challenge due to the cave's narrow and intricate pathways. A team of skilled climbers and rescue specialists meticulously navigated the treacherous terrain, carefully extracting Sergei's remains over several days. Their efforts, fraught with logistical and physical challenges, underscored the complexities and risks associated with extreme cave rescues. When Sergei didn't return from his solo mission, his wife reported him missing. For 9 harrowing months, there was no trace of him. Then, on August 4, 2021, seasoned explorers came across a troubling sight: a rope left at the cave entrance after descending over 3,000 feet into Verykibyona Cave. As they navigated through its depths, stopping at various camps to rest and recharge, they made a chilling discovery: a body curled unnaturally in the darkness. Despite the advanced decomposition, the explorer was outfitted in rugged outdoor gear, trekking boots, and a helmet. Authorities later confirmed the body as Sergei Koziev, a 37-year-old man from Sochi, Russia. Among Sergei's belongings, spelunkers found 2 mobile phones and a multi-tool, alongside detailed notes and photos outlining his bold plan to conquer the cave's depths alone. This ambitious yet ill-fated endeavor ultimately led to his identification through a missing person search engine. Despite the challenges posed by the cave's unforgiving environment, Sergei's wife insisted on retrieving his body to prevent any potential contamination of the cave. However, the retrieval presented a daunting challenge. The cave's narrow passages made extracting Sergei's body in one piece impossible. The only viable option was a grim one, to divide Sergei's remains into 10 parts for transport. Once this method was approved, a team of 27 climbing professionals assembled for the arduous task. They divided into 2 teams and went down into the cave, spending the night at the second camp before starting the tough job. On August 14th, they put on wetsuits for the wet and difficult descent, soon finding Sergei's body. They cut him into 10 pieces and packed them in special heavy-duty bags, spending the next few days hauling these bags through tight squeezes. Finally, on August 16th, the groups emerged with Sergei's remains. The entire operation took 4 days. It was later found that Sergei had entered the cave illegally without the proper registration. His poor equipment was the main cause of his death. His family later laid Sergei's body to rest, expressing deep gratitude to everyone involved in the recovery.